The Las Vegas Raiders have officially drafted a cornerback in the 3rd round, and we're going to talk about what this guy brings to the Las Vegas Raiders. I watched this guy's tape, and I'm telling you guys, potential, man. Huge potential. And let's talk about this guy, man. Darien Porter had his best season this past season, right? Prior to this season, he wasn't all that good, to be honest, guys. The guy honestly was kind of a rotational player, and even then, he didn't play a ton of snaps. I think coming into this final season, the guy had he was averaging 120 snaps a season, right? So this was not a guy that at Iowa State, they said, he's our starter, right? But this final season, the guy had a phenomenal season. And it wasn't like this guy was an elite corner by any means, but when he got to the testing portion, right? And some of these corners, oftentimes it's the testing that allows these guys to get drafted where they ultimately get drafted. Part of being a cornerback is going to be what your upside is, right? Because we can always coach a corner, right? The most system position on the defensive side is corner. We see Bill Belichick take these guys in the 6th, 7th round, and they have a lot of success. Darien Porter is the perfect corner for the Las Vegas Raiders, especially the Pete Carroll scheme. Pete Carroll, we know, loved to play that cover 3 zone scheme. The Legion of Boom years, right? They had all these 6'2.5", 6'3" corners and safeties and linebackers that transitioned to safety, guys that were running, were hitting. Darien Porter kind of fits that same mold. He's 6'3.5", 195 pounds. He ran a 4.3 40-yard dash, the 10-yard split, 1.49. Absolutely incredible. You don't generally get that with some of these guys that are kind of coming out. And then he was the 2nd most athletic corner coming out of this past class. Production wasn't great, though. You guys can see the production score. He ranked 18th in this class. But the athletic score is completely different. I saw someone say this is the Darius Hayward-Bay of this class. That could definitely be true. It's definitely a pretty interesting comp. I really like Darien Porter, man. And I'm telling you guys right now, I think this guy has huge potential. But he does have to get coached right. You know, when Ashton Jeanty comes over to the Raiders, that's a day 1 starter. When Jack Bech comes to the Las Vegas Raiders, that's a day 1 starter as well, right? I know some people might not like it, but Jack Bech has huge potential as well. I think his game will translate. Darien Porter's a little bit different, right? This guy could be, one of the best corners in the NFL if he gets coached right. And if he takes that coaching as well, or he could just be a flat out bust, right? And chances are he is going to end up busting out, right? I shouldn't say that, right? Take that back. Most players, when you're taking them the way Darien Porter kind of is, they don't always work out, right? Darien Porter's being taken because of the athletic profile, the potential, the upside, right? The scheme-specific fit that he might end up being. The guy had a 9.9 RAS score out of 10. That's incredible, right? That is absolutely incredible. That ranked, according to Kent Lee, that ranked 5 out of the 2,700 cornerbacks from 1987 to 2025. Right, RAS score is basically just an athletic score, body structure, right? How a guy's basically built. He was officially measured as 6'2" and 7/8", right? So it's basically 6'3", 1/8 inch away from being 6'3", is basically 6'3". And the guy has a lot of really good things from a off the field. On tape, the guy definitely has potential and upside. I do think with certain guys, scheme is going to be one of the big factors. And I think with a guy like Darien Porter, scheme is definitely going to be one of the big factors. And I think for the Raiders, it's very clear. You let Jack Jones kind of leave. Jack Jones was a man. He was more of a man corner than he was a zone corner. From a body structure perspective, he could definitely be a zone corner. But the thing with a guy like Jack Jones is he couldn't really tackle. So zone didn't work well for him because he couldn't tackle. A guy like Trayvon Merrick, right? Trayvon Merrick is a safety that is probably better in zone than he is in man as well. I'm sorry, he's probably better in man than he is in zone as well. We saw him at TCU when he was over with TCU. He played a lot of slot corner, right? Trayvon Merrick did. And the Raiders let some of these guys go, right? Jack Jones got released. Trayvon Merrick was allowed to walk. And the Raiders have kind of shifted away to bringing in guys like Jeremy Chin, right? 6'3.5". They quickly signed Isaiah Paul-Lamau, another guy's like 6'3.5". Darien Porter, almost 6'3", right? It looks like the Raiders are kind of transitioning into these type of guys. Eric Stokes, 6'2", right? The Raiders are getting bigger. They're getting into that zone corner type of structure, and it makes sense because I think this defense is going to be the Pete Carroll defense. I would not be surprised if Patrick Graham only stays with the Raiders for this season And, we transition into like Pete Carroll being kind of the coach and kind of implementing his scheme, and Patrick Graham eventually ends up leaving after this season. I would not be surprised, because this is not Patrick Graham's scheme any longer, right? It's very, very, very clear. This is now basically the Pete Carroll scheme and system. Again, Darien Porter to me has potential, and I will keep saying potential, because you do have to get out there and you do have to kind of prove it. But this does benefit the Raiders, right? Because now you have guys like Cameron Richardson, who's a 4th-round pick last year. Jacorian Bennett, right? Highly drafted player. I think Bennett was a 3rd-round pick. Darien Porter, another guy that's a 3rd-round pick. The Raiders have put investments into that secondary at the corner position over the past 3 years, right? This being the 3rd year. These guys hopefully will just continue to develop. And we did see Jacorian Bennett develop last year. The guy looked really, really good. At times last year, he looked like a top 10 corner. And hopefully Cameron Richardson takes that same jump this season. And then hopefully Darien Porter, if it's not this season, hopefully next season he kind of takes that same jump as well. And hopefully he ends up having a good career for the Raiders. I was watching one game in particular with Darian Butler. And it was specifically because there was a wide receiver at UCF named Kobe Hudson. He went to the Hula Bowl, and I was tasked for the Hula Bowl. I don't usually watch wide receivers, but I was tasked to watch this guy named Kobe Hudson. And Darien Porter just flashed, right? Kobe Hudson had no separation on Darien Porter. And Kobe Hudson's pretty good, right? Like, getting to the Hula Bowl, that's the 3rd All-Star game. Most All-Star games take like 6-7 wide receivers. So Hudson's, top 15 wide receiver coming out. And Porter shut his ass down. And I'm not surprised to see Porter get drafted where he got drafted. Right. Now, I did not think the Raiders were going to draft this guy, right? I didn't even really know where this guy would be drafted. That UCF game was the only ever game I ever watched of Porter, up until like 12 minutes ago, where I started watching 2 other games of his. He had a really good game against Iowa this past season. I think it was his best game was against Iowa. That was like week 2 or week 3. He had another really good game against Houston. The guy's, definitely streaky. He definitely has potential and upside. He had 3 interceptions this past season, which is the most interceptions. I don't know if he's had another interception in his career outside of this past season. But the guy was also put into a new scheme and system this past season. He was allowed to play zone coverage a lot more this past season than in seasons past. And this guy's going to be a specific zone cover corner. In fact, his Pro Football Focus grade is 91.1 when it comes to zone. That means he's an elite corner when it comes to zone coverage. And man coverage is a lot worse, right? 63.5. That puts him in like the bottom, 10%. But when it comes to zone, which I think the Raiders will put this guy into zone covering situations a lot more, I think he'll be able to have success. And it is interesting now because the Raiders secondary is definitely coming together. Coming into the draft, I knew the Raiders had to take a corner. I really, really wanted Will Johnson, but he ended up getting picked, I think, with pick 57. The Raiders had pick 58, so the Raiders obviously weren't able to fill. They weren't able to get a corner. They probably didn't really feel that comfortable either at that point. But they decided to wait until this pick here, and they get a guy with a lot of upside, a lot of potential. And we'll just see how this kind of develops as we kind of go forward. But this does now give you a pretty good unit, right? You have a guy in Jacorian Bennett who has a ton of upside. Some people think he'll be a top 10 corner. We'll see if that actually ends up happening. You do have the Cameron Richardson. We'll see how he develops. Usually, if it's a good scheme and system, which Patrick Graham has proven to have had, if it's a good scheme and system, the thing is you can mold corners into that scheme and system. And I think Patrick Graham runs a pretty good scheme. So we'll be able to now, Patrick Graham runs a good scheme. Pete Carroll also has, had a lot of success with secondary players in the past. We'll now see if Darien Porter can come in and kind of have a little bit of success. We'll see what Cameron Richardson develops into. Eric Stokes, 4 years in the NFL already. He's kind of a veteran. I know we still have guys like Sam Webb and a couple of the other guys as well, right? They're all kind of still in the building. We'll see how it works out for the Raiders, man. I am excited. We will be doing a film breakdown on Darien Porter and Jack Bech. Obviously I was not able to do a film breakdown on Ashton Jeanty. I didn't want to get into him earlier today, but let's be honest, most people have already watched this tape. You can watch the highlights. It all speaks for itself, man. The balance and just the way Ashton Jeanty is as a running back, completely different type of player, right? Bech, I know a lot of people don't really know him, so we'll watch his tape as well. And then Darien Porter's a guy I really, really want to get into. My hope is that tomorrow morning I can get into Porter specifically. If not, it'll be the first thing I drop Monday morning, right? So let me know what you guys think. What are you guys' thoughts on Darien Porter? Huge upside once again, right? I'm going to keep saying that. Thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.